South Korean President Moon Jae-in says that the U.S. and North Korea are in talks for a possible third Trump-Kim summit. According to Mr. Moon, talks are happening behind the scenes, and the U.S. has proposed working-level negotiations with the North.
However, Pyongyang has been sitting on that offer. For more, let us cross over to Yoon-suk in Seoul to tell us more about this. So, Yoon-suk, tell us, what are we talking about when we hear this term behind-the-scenes talks, and what is the point of the third summit?
Well, President Moon made those remarks when he gave a written interview to some of the several agencies ahead of his trip to Osaka, and there he was saying that there were those behind-the-scenes talks. But it's not really just South Korean President Moon Jae-in. In recent days, we've heard South Korean ministers here being very optimistic, saying that there were working-level negotiations going on between the United States and North Korea to set the scene for the next summit meeting between the United States and North Korea. Now, President Moon, in that interview, also did say that there were 3 meaningful events that recently took place, and was talking about that beautiful letter that the U.S. President Donald Trump got from the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, and also the fact that the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has sent his sister Kim Yo-jong over to the demilitarized zone to give their condolences over the death of the former First Lady, the wife of the former President Kim Dae-jung, who really started this engagement policy with North Korea, so-called the Sunshine Policy. And lastly, he said the fact that the North Korean leader sat down with the Chinese President Xi Jinping also was meaningful, and he believes that all those events are indications from North Korea that it is ready for a third summit meeting. Now, in that interview, he also said, you know, the fact that the North Koreans and the United States are not talking right now doesn't really mean that there is a stalemate in relations between the two sides, and he believes that the Hanoi meeting, although there was no agreement, really did allow the two sides to put out on the negotiating table everything they wanted to discuss. And so that's why the third summit is important, because it will be part of this whole peace process. And he believes that North Korea should come forward as soon as possible to show its willingness to the international community that it is serious about dismantling its nuclear program.
Yoon-suk, what about Japan's potential role in all of this? Because relations between Japan and South Korea, they turned rather frosty over historical issues. This has happened in the past as well, of course. What has Seoul's reaction been to the fact that Japan is rather undecided about what role it's going to play?
Well, definitely South Korea and Japan will have to cooperate, closely when it comes to North Korea's issue. And in fact, that is something that the two sides have said they are willing to do. But right now, South Korea had proposed a meeting with the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe on the sidelines of that Osaka G20 meeting. But apparently there has been no response from Tokyo. And so on Tuesday, we had the South Korean presidential office here saying that they don't think there is going to be a summit meeting between the two leaders because there's been no response. But having said that, the Japanese government today did come forward saying that there was nothing decided, and it seems like Japan is leaving doors open for a possible summit meeting between the two sides. Although, many experts that I've been speaking to here say that two sides have really been at odds over the historical disputes, and in fact, the relations between South Korea and Japan right now are at one of its worst levels in recent years. And I was talking to some South Koreans here, and most of them say that, if the two leaders do meet, they do have to go and talk about these historical issues that have really strained relations between the two sides. Let me share with you this report to tell you what those issues are and what the South Koreans are saying about them. Grandmother Lee Ok-sun is now 91 years old, and she's one of the known 21 surviving comfort women in South Korea. She was at the rally outside the Japanese embassy in Seoul on Wednesday, where people for the last 28 years have been demanding an official apology and compensation from Tokyo. Usually, other Japan-related issues also come up. And this week, it was about world leaders gathering at the G20 summit. South Korea's presidential office said the government had hoped that President Moon Jae-in and his Japanese counterpart Shinzo Abe could hold a summit in Osaka, but that would now not happen. It said whether the two leaders will meet or not, the decision rests with Mr. Abe. Rally organizers say South Korea should not be concerned if Japan doesn't respond to its gesture.
일본 정부가 과거 역사에 대해서 부정하고 피해자들의 목소리를 차단하고 책임을 회피하는 그런 태도가 오늘날 한국과 일본과의 외교 그리고 아시아의 외교에 있어서 굉장히 걸림돌이다라는 인식을 가져야 된다고 봐요.
Such anti-Japan sentiments are common in South Korea, as people here believe that Japan has not done enough to compensate victims of wartime forced labor and sexual violence.
국가가 존재하니까요. 그렇기 때문에 우리나라 정부에서는 일본군 성노예제 문제든 강제징용 징병 문제든 할머님들과 그 피해 입었던 사람들의 입장을 대변을 해서 정상회담에 참여해야 한다고 저는 생각합니다.
Last October, South Korea's Supreme Court ordered Japanese companies to compensate South Korean forced labor victims. The verdict outraged the Japanese government. Japan maintained that compensation was already paid in 1965 when they signed a treaty where Tokyo provided economic aid worth $500 million. Bilateral ties sank to a new low over the issue. Worsening ties between South Korea and Japan will be bad news for the region, where North Korea remains a threat, with denuclearization talks with the U.S. now stalled. But neither side is ready to soften its position yet. Amid strong anti-Japan sentiments in the country, South Korean politicians continue to talk tough against Japan. At a session with lawmakers on Tuesday, South Korea's Foreign Minister Kang Kyung-hwa said if Japan takes any retaliatory measures against South Korea, Seoul will counter those measures and not tolerate them. Lim Ya-seok, CNA, Seoul.